Hello War of the Visions fans, I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to be looking at what I think is, or at least was, probably the strongest team in the game. Definitely a very powerful team for picking on evasion, definitely a very powerful magic team. A team that both has the damage to rush you down, while also having the healing to sustain itself into the long game, potentially. So, as you can see, we have plenty of AoE resistance, plenty of magic, and that type of stuff. But we're really missing a lot of specialized vision cards for this. The vision cards that I'm using here do work, but they tend more towards the less powerful universal vision cards. And these cards are incredibly useful for teams like this. And the team itself has enough power that that's not going to matter a whole lot. But at the same time, there are definitely vision cards that you might want for this team. Off the top of my head, though, I can't really think of any because lightning, well, actually, okay, hold on. There is a lightning and wind element card, but these are three completely different elements and jobs. So it's really not the best scenario for finding great VC synergies here. And this is going to let the team down a little bit. On the other hand, they just do so much that it doesn't often matter that much. And for the record, it's looking like on the JP side that this team is one of the strongest in the game, but the newer version where you swap out the DPS here for Exia and Sodali is currently kind of dominating their meta, at least according to Game 8. So I know this team has a lot of potential. One thing that I've definitely picked up, and this is my first Lucielle showcase video, one thing I've definitely picked up from doing the data analysis on different guild battle compositions is she's just the guild battle queen as far as I can tell. She's very strong in PvP as well, but especially in a format where you need to last for multiple fights potentially, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, Lucielle provides the sustain to make that possible, and she does it in such a way that can even benefit these characters a lot because of the fact that it's a lot of, like, she's very speedy in a way. She has the ability to give people haste, she has the ability to give people CT up on heals, she's got just an amazing buff rotation that just does, like, everything and then some, and can keep going into the battle because part of it's based on her healing anyways. So she's just going to keep buffing you as she heals. And she has the ability to put threshold heals on people, which means that she doesn't have to, like, line up the timing just right to be able to heal anyone. She can just put the heal on them in advance, and it has a chance to trigger while they're being damaged. Now, you can't overwhelm that. You can bypass these heals sometimes under certain conditions, but the fact that she can give a unit re-raise as well can also help keep that functional. So I think this is probably going to do enough damage to trigger the threshold heal, but because there were 2 follow-up attacks that got through my courage, actually maybe he didn't get a threshold heal on him. If he had had one on him, he would have been able to proc it with that. But as you see, like, the combination of Gilgamesh and Shurrecca, no matter which side of the team it's on at the moment, is really powerful. But here's the difference. Lucielle. Yes, they had more power than me. Yes, they could have come in slapping, and yes, they did knock my 2 DPS down to basically no HP. And then Lucielle came in, changed the game entirely on them. Plus, while she healed my team, she also gave them beneficial buffs, so it helped them out-survive any survivors that had made it through their initial onslaught. So this team is well balanced. I know I haven't done my strategy triangle video, but this team has a lot of the aspects of each strategy. I mean, the DPS units themselves, especially the way that they combine together, the way that, you know, Shurrecca has her own follow-up hit and Gilgamesh can follow up other people's hits. So as you just saw in that last fight, that means that Shurrecca can slap somebody for most of their HP, then hit their courage, then Gilgamesh can come in and slap their re-raise. Of course, with Lucielle on the team, unlike my opponent, there is the possibility that I can give Gilgamesh specifically, and I think Gilgamesh is probably the one who should get it for a couple of reasons. Courage removal. Because again, Shurrecca is going to have 1 to 2 follow-up hits at basically all times, and she hits hard enough that maybe she doesn't need the courage removal as much. But Gilgamesh doesn't have any sort of follow-up. I mean, he has a follow-up for other people's attacks, but not for his. So his attacks need the courage removal more. This is why I would put him in the first slot in this composition, and maybe Lucielle in the second. And that's just so that Gilgamesh gets 1 hate to start the fight with, so that he will become the main target of her buffs, because we want to get a lot of those buffs onto him. Because, I mean, courage removal is good on anybody as like an automatic add-on to your attacks. I'm not going to knock it. But if there is a character in the game, and if there is a team for that character that absolutely does not need more courage removing ability, it's Shurrecca on this team. So, I don't know if you're noticing this, but we are kind of starting to lap this team a little bit. We got out in front with enough range that we destroyed one of their characters before they got anywhere near us. And that wasn't even Shrek, that was just Gilgamesh. So now, with less affinity bonuses, the remaining characters are slower. Now we've got rid of another one, so this last one is going to be pretty slow. And just watch how many turns. Lucielle's getting 2 turns in a row. Just look at how many turns we're going to take compared to this guy. It's ridiculous. We're already, I mean, let me put it this way. Compared to some of the other teams that I've shown you that I've really impressed upon you how fast they are, this one isn't that fast. It's kind of average, really. But if you're below average, which I feel like that last team was in terms of speed, in part because it just had 2 tanks on the team, which I know I'm going to mention this in my strategy triangle video, but don't be that guy. It usually doesn't work. You need like a supremely good strategy against maybe even a specific team to make that work. Not it. But that can show you the power of agility. I mean, we're just getting more turns than them. So we can rush them down. We can also play economics. Lucielle's a great economic unit. She's going to give me huge speed advantages. I think she has haste removing capabilities, maybe. Editor Fox will if I remember this in editing, Editor Fox will clarify that for me. Editor Fox here, and the short answer is no, but the long answer is I've definitely seen someone run a Lucielle this way in top tier arena. It definitely worked very, very well. I think this was in the top 10. And there are 2 ways that you could do this, but both of them are going to require specific TMRs on limited units. So newer players may not be able to pull this off, but the first one I want to talk about is Smiling Goddess from Addison Rae. If you were playing during this, it wasn't that hard to get her to level 99, so you could have this basically off of a free character. This is going to provide crit rate up and allow you to dispel haste on hit, and also activates in a huge diamond AoE, so it's very easy to get this onto your entire team compared to some other buffs. But if you really want to dominate the meta, and this one is, as a strategy, going to work a lot better against Agrius specifically, Bellflower Dress from Shadowlinks on Ice not only gives you the ability, and your allies the ability, to dispel haste, but you can also dispel regen as well, which is going to basically nerf her ability to stop your team. And with 25 stop resistance across the board, if you can turn off that regen, you can ensure that she cannot stop your team, and that's a big advantage against Agrius right now. So really powerful, and would also deal with haste as well. So you can deal with haste, you can deal with courage. She can even deal with re-raise remove. It's really cool how her 2-person re-raise skill is also a re-raise remove ceiling skill. Because just getting that on a multiple, it's not as important on her, honestly, because she doesn't usually hit people until it's like the last minute. That's really the thing that's most deprioritized in her kit. She can be a capable attacker. She's not going to do a lot of damage, but she can do things. So between her giving you speed, denying other people speed, giving you CT, making sure your units stay alive, like, both of these other characters have ways of healing themselves. Gilgamesh threw the blood sword for this build, which I guess more people don't run on him because it's a little low on magic, but I feel like the healing just works for him and is helpful. Again, don't see many people run this, but giving Gilgamesh a passive healing on attack just feels good, even if his stats go down a little bit because of it. But maybe I'm prioritizing his durability over his just sheer power to KO people. Maybe that is a mistake, but it seems to work pretty well. Then, of course, Shurrecca has that 50% HP absorb skill in her opening buff rotation. So both of them can heal themselves in battle, which is good because in certain scenarios, especially against non-physical units such as themselves, they can fall pretty hard. In fact, Gilgamesh is going up against another Gilgamesh can be pretty scary. We've already seen it happen at least once. And it's not that bad for our Gilgamesh himself. But Gil and Shurrecca have physical barriers. And just really nothing to magic. So as you can see there, I mean, we did take some damage in both, but you know, we were able to stop some of that damage on Gilgamesh and Shurrecca, and it kept us in there longer. But as you can see, they're not incredibly durable. So there are scenarios where we can get rushed down and lose a unit really early, and now we're at a huge disadvantage. And I don't know if you are picking up what this fight is putting down, but we're here. We're in a bad spot. Although, through this loss, I want to demonstrate just the pure stubbornness of Lucielle as a unit. As a healer, sustaining herself and other characters, sustaining herself, or messing with the enemy team, like she does a lot. We're in a bad situation. Everybody's frostbitten, so you know this is not going to be an economic victory. Like landing frostbite on us after putting us in such a bad situation is pretty much the last nail in the coffin. Now they just need to do the damage, and look at us still blocking damage. That's actually pretty cool. And like, we've kind of evened it up. I mean, we're so close to taking them out right now, but they're getting turns before us. They're going to take one of our units out before we can clear any of them, and double heal. Now we're down to our healer, so we're just screwed. But she doesn't care. She's like, you're not killing me. You may have destroyed my team, but I'm going to stick around. Like, I'm not going to win this fight. But me, personally, Lucielle, I'm not going to lose this fight either, motherfucker. Now, one of the things that she can also do in this scenario, if she's not heal spiraling like she is right now, is that she could just AoE disable these two, which is pretty freaking powerful. I can't believe we only have 227 HP. God damn. And now we're back at full. And we got the CT up. Not that it's really helping. Like, again, a thing that I'm sure you've noticed in battle is that affinity can have a pretty big boost on your team's speed, and you lose affinity once you start losing units. So once you lose your first unit, your team's speed will drop. And for every unit that you lose, the remaining characters will get slower. There's also other drawbacks I think they lose, like dexterity and a couple of other stats as well, which can handicap them in other ways, but the most noticeable drop is the drop in agility. Speaking of AoE disable though, Garza is kind of scary. He has a really good main kit, and like a lot of units, he's going to be a big status effect on LB unit. What's the big status effect, you say? Well, you'll see. It has a 40% chance of proccing, and he's not necessarily a high faith unit. At least, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't run this guy at high faith. I mean, maybe you want that status to land more often, but at the same time, he's a physical unit, so there aren't as many reasons to give him high faith. He does have some HP draining, so maybe you'd run him at like 64, even 70. But this isn't like a mandatory 97 faith unit. And since there's only a 40% chance of proccing the status effect, if I had walked into this fight with even Trust Rune resistance to it, then what you're about to see happen probably wouldn't have happened. We would go from a 40% base rate to a 15% base rate, which is, I mean, I don't like it, but I do like my odds of at least one of my characters being able to survive this. Like, if only one of them hadn't taken the status effect, I probably could have won this, because we, for a team with all of its power disabled, we made it through this a lot better than I thought we would. Like, you know, Gilgamesh is already looking like he's about to die, and he's just standing there not doing anything. One of the greatest blessings to Gilgamesh being disabled here is, I believe, and I don't think you can see this yet, maybe, but I'm pretty sure that he's been immobilized by Shurrecca, which means that he's not going to do that annoying zugzwang thing where he moves forward even though he's disabled. He's just going to stand there, and and because he doesn't move, that means he gets his turn faster. So this 3 turns of disable actually will wear off a lot faster than you would expect. Still immobilized though. So like, that's, I guess, what I'm saying here. Yeah, we had ass luck at the beginning of this fight, and we're gonna lose another one, ladies and gentlemen. But even though that is the case, and even though all of my DPS have been disabled pretty much the entire time that they have been in range of the enemy, like, I just haven't had a single opportunity to deal damage this entire fight, I did manage to keep Gilgamesh, who's kind of a glass cannon. I mean, yes, it was into a wind team, so he's got elemental resistance on side, but I managed to keep him alive through 3 turns of disable. That usually doesn't happen. Like, usually if a character gets disabled or stopped, especially when they're facing off against an entire team, no, they're dead. They might not be dead yet, but it's pretty much a death sentence. You might as well have, honestly, it's better than Doom, but you might as well have doomed them, because probably before that status effect wears off, they're going to be destroyed. And it didn't happen here. So, I guess what I'm saying is, if I had the proper trust runes to take that team on, then I do like my odds. And that's something that's going to, I've said it before, I'll say it again in this video, that's something that's going to be more and more important in the meta as we get a combination of, you know, more and more sustain. Especially when we're talking about super disruptive status effects. Disable and stop are great examples. And maybe even a team of like Agrius Garza. There's plenty of synergy between Katana and Red Mage. Could just go out there and stop the whole other team from doing stuff. And because we're in a meta like that right now, if you really want to play at the top tier, I think one of the things that you need to shift a little bit of focus on is what teams am I going up against? What super disabling status effects do they use? Like, you know, maybe you don't want to deal with Frostbite because, I mean, it's not good. It'll certainly handicap your team economically, but it's not a death sentence in the way that Stop or Disable are, you know what I mean? So maybe you want to, because you only have so many resistance slots in your Trust runes, and you know, you want like extra HP and some of those other basic good effects too. So you don't want to use all 6 slots resisting statuses. You got to pick and choose. And hey, Curse is a pretty good example of one that you need to focus on. But also, did my healer just get cursed? I have the recollection that my healer got cursed. And that's their only opportunity to curse. But I didn't... Oh, yeah, she's cursed. Another way this team can absolutely fall apart. Probably should be running some curse resistance on her. I don't think I am. I pretty much auto-set her Trust runes. Like, you know, this is the thing about some of these testing videos. This is basically the first day I'm using this team. I just built it before I hit record. So I haven't put a ton of thought into it. I'm just testing it out, see how it performs, what it can do. Since she can't heal, this is going to push her into damage mode. Maybe she can get Disable off. Nope. So I guess one of the points that I want to make here, and one of the points that the last two fights have made just incredibly well in different ways, is that when you have a team that performs really well, it is not without weakness, it is not without counter, even if you have a really good composition, even if you built it better than I built this one. You really want to think about how can my opponent absolutely turn my characters off with status effects. Because again, the longer and the more durable, longer fights go, the more durable characters get, the more opportunities you have to just hit them with something that has a low chance of happening. Now, this can be a little bit of a downside, maybe for like Garissa and Sephiroth, in that they only get one chance. Sure, they have good odds, and sometimes that means even more than having multiple chances, but, you know, repeatability, if at first you don't succeed, try again, can be really important with status effects, because again, you know, if you have no other option in a fight, then the thing, or if you've really hyper prepared for a fight and you're doing, you know, you've got this down, then the thing that can still mess you up here is status effects. Every time. Like, it can ruin you. You've seen it happen to me twice in a row. I mean, this is a great team. I really do like it. And now that I've built this team, I'm going to start looking for vision cards for it and trying to figure out ways to build it better, trying to figure out what type of status resistances it might need, what I want to fight with it. One thing that hasn't really come up in this video but is incredibly relevant for this team in the meta is, you know, because of Gilgamesh, it has a pretty decent shot into wind. Because of Shurrecca, it also has a pretty decent shot into earth. And because of both of them, it has a really good shot into earth evasion, or a lot of different evasion compositions. Gilgamesh has a ton of very powerful guaranteed hit skills in his kit. So if you run into a character that doesn't have a guaranteed hit null, that has a really just absurdly high level of evasion, then Gilgamesh will be able to hit that character pretty reliably and deal a lot of damage to them. Typically a lot more than they tend to be expecting. And like, speaking of like, you know, getting accelerated by Lucielle and just lapping the other team, has Sadly moved? I think he's moved once, but like, we have moved all the way across the field. We just keep taking turns. And he's still standing there. I guess he'll get an opportunity to do something. But, finally. But if they do have sure hit avoidance, usually they're not as evasive as the characters they don't give that to. Because, you know, if you're super evasive and you can't be hit by sure hit, that's kind of broken. Like, people need an avenue into a character and into a build. And, you know, high accuracy is one way to go. Guaranteed hit is another. They work in different cases. And if you have an incredible DPS example of each one of these on your team, as well as the kind of sustain and support that's going to keep them alive, well, this team rips straight through evasion teams very, very easily. You would be pretty surprised. In fact, that's the first time that I saw this team. I was playing Earth Evasion in high tier arena, and so was half of everybody else. And this was the team that worked its way to the top, just slaughtering all of those Earth Evasion teams, because they just couldn't deal with its combination of accuracies and, you know, Shurrecca in general. So thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss a video. Check out the link in the description for more Jackie Fox content. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Editor Fox here because I thought about it and came up with some new build ideas as I was editing this. Like giving Gilgamesh the Dragon Circlet to give just a huge, easy to cast AoE magic boost to the whole team. Maybe to make this whole composition more rushy. I'm also going to be utilizing the Smiling Goddess on Lucielle to give her the ability to give other people both really high chances to crit, which is going to be really important for getting the haste removing effect. But this effect is even applied to like follow-up hits and stuff, so it can be really powerful in that way. But speaking of follow-up hits, I think that at the very least, Shurrecca's follow-up hits already have this effect on haste, which, woof. So I actually wanna take a step back and say some of these builds, and I still stand by the Bellflower dress, because look, you know, they've got the regen up. Both of these are going to be Agrius fights. I would have loved to have had the Bellflower dress in both of these. That is definitely worth it. But on this team, or at least at the very least in combination with Shurrecca, I don't necessarily need that to be speed dominant or haste dominant on the field. Another thing you'll notice about this fight that's kind of interesting is that because Lucielle got that big magic boost at the beginning, and also because she had to get herself in the middle of everybody to cast the Smiling Goddess buff, she actually ended up getting within range of people and started to hit people really early on in this fight. And like I said, she's not doing a lot of damage. Really, the most impactful thing that she can do is a little bit more close range and can disable multiple opponents. And she does a lot more damage to those disabled opponents with her other skill, but unfortunately she'll use that one first and often. So what I'm looking for now is someone who has a bunch of AP auto restore on their team. Sephiroth is a good thing to look at, but I'm also looking for a secondary character that has AP auto restore as well. Bradley might with the right sub job. I might want to check that one a little bit harder. Hey Maiden. How's it going? See, you're playing water. Let me know if you saw this in the comments. So checking the Sephiroths, checking the TMRs, I'm not really seeing as many, like, I think I saw a Sephiroth and a Bells. Let me check the sub job here. No, he's not using Operative, so no, he does not have Shadow Dance. Also, that's a really small AP restore. I really want to deny as much as possible from this team. So Bells looks good. And the reason I'm testing this, and to be quite honest with you, she may not even use this buff without me tuning her AI and turning off some more of her buffs. Because unlike most every other character in the game, like a DPS uses this buff, they run straight forward. They use it immediately. They skip their entire rotation. They're just like, all right, I'm a frontline attacker now. Like, what drove you crazy like this? Why are you doing this? Right? Editor Fox is Editor Fox here. Canonically, the Veritas armors drive the people who wear them crazy. And this is a piece of his armor, so fair enough flavor-wise. But that is not the way that it works for support. And a lot of the counter strategies kind of assume that you're going to be doing this relatively early, in the very early game. And she doesn't really do that. In fact, I think that was the point where she would have used it, or this might be the point where she would have used it. I would just have to turn off... No. Okay, it was the last turn. Cool. Got a heal in, though. Also, like, potentially, there is a potential build for this where literally all three of them can heal each other. Just, you know, because Gilgamesh will give himself haste while healing. I think Shurrecca gives them, like, AP as well. It's all pretty good, actually. And especially in guild battle, this is one of the things that could make this team so dominant in guild battle is they have so many good recovery options for battle 2. Like, they could go into battle 2 with a significant HP deficit and just make it up real quick at the very beginning of the game and keep going. Even if, say, Lucielle is out of heals from fight 1. Which, I don't even know if that happens. Even in a real slog, I don't think there's enough turns for her to cast them all, because, like, we're down to 7 actions left and she's still using the big AoEs. Okay, now I'm done.